big g'day and welcome to another cracking edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. My name's Yeendy, excited to be with you as always. I'm here with Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. Big g'day, how did you enjoy Easter?
Well, it was good. It was actually a little bit different for once. Had a few days off, which doesn't happen often, especially on a weekend. So, rare weekend off for me, but now back into the footy and back into everything else.
Excellent. Well, it really starts to kick into overdrive, and round two started a little bit early. Started last Thursday under lights. Romsey Melton Centrals. Romsey ended up getting the honours there in a pretty good game under lights. Hard physical contest. Did you expect Romsey to get the job done there?
I did. I think the scoreline was sort of what you expected. Romsey, I think, in that opening round showed a little bit more class, and I think they do have that over Melton Centrals. So it was a reasonably close all day, but I thought the Redbacks would get over the line, and it proved that way. Yeah,
the Centrals sort of left their run a little bit late in the last quarter. I think they were down by about 7 goals, and they kicked 4 unanswered goals in quick time before Romsey put the matter to bed. But that wasn't before we had the mighty incident with the sprinklers that accidentally come on down at the right hand side, the opposite the scoreboard end. So they come in the last quarter, and then the game ended up getting called off by a minute when the sprinklers come on the playing field. So that was curtains. So we know the old hiccup there is the water had not been changed, or the watering hadn't been changed from daylight savings, hence they went when they did. But anything at Romsey is what we come to expect these days.
It is, and both sides played in the wet weather round one, so they got another dose of it in round two.
Exactly right. Now, we've got a big weekend this weekend. It is Anzac Day weekend, and great to see most clubs are getting out and doing something for it, which is outstanding. And of course, we've got the big game on Anzac Day, which I think is where we'll start our I guess, insight there into sort of preview that one. We've got Macedon versus Rupert's Wood. This is the game of the round.
It is, and the past couple of Anzac Days have been thrilling matches. I know last year that Macedon came from behind to get over the top of the Sharks, and I agree with you, most definitely the game of the round. These two were probably two of the more impressive sides in round one, so it's going to be interesting how they go against each other. You've got to look, Rupert's Wood heavily defeated Broadford, but then it's a different opposition. Can they match it against those top sides?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of questions will be asked there, but we expected these two sides to be up around the mark in season 2017. Where could you see this one going?
I think it's going to be a close one. I tipped Macedon, but it could go either way.
Yeah, I think Macedon probably just, but Rupert's Wood again, they end up winning by 195 points in round one. It's going to be an absolute cracking game. Check out the website for the full details of all the match times and details of what's happening there in terms of parking and such. It's always a great day down there at Tony Clark Reserve. This is the second year they are running it, and of course there'll be volunteers there virtually all day, as those will be heading up to the cross in the morning. There's parking at the ground, and then they take the bus up the top, and those volunteers they'll be putting in sort of 18, 19 hour days. So make sure you get out and thank those that help out. They're doing a bit of hard yakka there. We've got some other cracking games this weekend, and we'll go across to Riddle and Wallen, and can't forget, of course, if you're heading down to Tony Clark on Tuesday, 100.7 Highlands FM has got you covered, just like Saturday afternoon football. Riddle versus Wallen, that's also on Highlands FM, and the Bombers, they didn't have the best result in round one. They're up against a red-hot Diggers Rest, and Wallen, they're up against a red-hot Macedon outfit. How will both teams bounce back?
Well, we talk about Macedon and Rupert's Wood being two of the better sides in round one. These are probably two of the more disappointing sides in round one. Riddle got heavily smashed by Diggers Rest, and Wallen was nowhere good enough for Macedon. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how these sides go. These are two sides that most people will expect to be fighting for the top 6. So it's a very interesting one to see who's going to bounce back. Riddle are traditionally slow starters, so whether they're still adapting to that new look forward line and those new players they've got in the side. Wallen does have a lot of new players in the side as well, so I think it'll be another close one, but it'll be interesting to see how these two sides go after disappointing round ones.
Yeah, I think you're right. The Bombers are traditionally slow starters. Wallen, they've got a lot to fight back after some tragic news over the weekend with the passing of one of their players. I know the guys will be fighting really hard, extra hard on the weekend for them. So our condolences go with the Wallen Football Netball Club for the loss of one of their players who has joined the club in recent times. And so I think with that information in hand, I think Wallen will put on a braver performance and might end up giving the Bombers a good run for their money.
I think I tip Riddle, but it wouldn't surprise me Wallen getting up.
Yeah. What are some of the other big games we've got on this weekend?
Well, obviously you've got Rockbank versus Lancefield, so I think they'll be a pretty interesting one. You've got both sides coming off close losses in round one. Lancefield would have been disappointed not to get the win against Wood End Heskett. They're a side they need to beat to play finals. And for Rockbank, I think this is probably a bigger test for us to see where Rockbank fit. Last year they were competitive against Melton Centrals. They were competitive in round one. How are they going to go against the other sides? That will sort of give us a better idea of where they sit.
Yeah, you're right. And I think with Lancefield, we know that they had a slow start in the last game against the Hawks, and probably needed a bit more time for the players to gel. So hopefully they've done a little bit of work over the break. Rockbank, they played some great football on the Saturday night game a few weeks back against the Centrals. So they're a much more improved unit. I'm looking forward to seeing them rise to the occasion. If Lancefield come out with a big win, that probably says more about them than where Rockbank are at the moment, because we know they're still in a development stage.
It is, and I think the Tigers will get the win, but it'll be interesting to see how close Rockbank can get.
What are some of the other matches we've got?
You've got the battle of the Kangaroos, so you've got Sunbury Kangaroos playing Broadford, so that'll be an interesting one. Broadford, to see whether they've managed to get a few more players, whether they can field under 18 and halves again this week, because I know they did have to forfeit in round one. For Sunbury Kangaroos, it's probably a good opportunity for them to gel more. They've got quite a few new players, and they did take a little bit of time against Romsey in round one, so that's going to be interesting to get some of those newer players in and try and gel as a side.
Fantastic. I think it'd be great for Broadford. And James Philpott, his first coaching performance wasn't a successful one against Rupert's Wood, but at the end of the day, who knows, hopefully they've got a few more players on board, and I'll have to check their clearance list, but I think that they'll be a bit stronger and just add a little bit more depth to the team, which is essential for the club going forward.
Yep, and then the other match, you've got Wood End Heskett versus Diggers Rest. So two sides that won in round one, in very different circumstances though. You had Diggers Rest show why they were the premiers last season. They played really well in round one. Hawks just got over the line. So it'll be interesting for the Hawks to test themselves against a side that will likely play finals. So they had a good win first up, but can they get that momentum against one of those stronger sides?
I think the Hawks will be near full strength. They're still waiting on the return of Ben Toman, who's still overseas, but I know that they've still got a few players to come back into the senior dynamic, which will be integral for them going forward. They did have a few good players named in the senior interleague squad, as we did throughout the competition, but I think that'll give them a little bit more confidence as well, particularly if Matt Quinn returns to the team. I'm looking forward to seeing the matchup between him and Sean Egan in the ruck, which will be great at the GGO, and expecting a big crowd down there, which I know that the two have fought many great rival matches over the years. But it's great to see the release of the senior interleague squad during the week for the training squad, which is up on the RDFNL website. Any surprises there for you?
It was good to see players from every single team named, and that's what you sort of want to see, that every team gets that opportunity. A few of the high-profile players have been named. You've got your Cale Morton, your Taylor Hines have both been named, so hopefully they can get out there and play in interleague weekend. Initially, the squad has a lot of those good players, but it's whether or not who will and won't play come interleague weekend. Yeah,
watch this space for more details over the coming weeks, and of course a big reminder for a fixture change for round 3. Rupert's Wood v Rockbank, if you haven't caught up on the news already, has been moved to this Saturday afternoon as opposed to the Sunday due to the junior fixture.
It is. I know Rupert's Wood has plenty of junior sides, so trying to fit in some senior matches around those junior sides on a Sunday I think just proved too difficult. So it means Rupert's Wood comes off a very short break, but then they'll still think they can get the job done over Rockbank.
And it means that Wood End Heskett and Macedon will be a handy standalone game as well. So I mean, it's a handy to have that sort of rival game on a Sunday afternoon, which I believe will be at the GGA for round 3. But it shapes up to be a cracking weekend. I know you're absolutely pumped about this one. We're finally sort of getting into proceedings after a few disrupted weeks, which is great. Tara, thanks so much for joining us here as always on the RDFNL Footy Show.
Thanks,